TitleMatchNetwork.com.
This is RF Video, and without a doubt, it was a pleasure to have in front of us the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, a legend in the business of professional wrestling, former TV title of the NWA, former U.S. champion, former tag team champion, former six-man champion, and of course, former NWA World Heavyweight champion. Dusty, thank you for definitely doing this interview with us.
That's cool. A lot of farmers, you know, when you talk about farmer this, farmer that, farmer champion. I think it's important to get that phone over there. Should we take that off the fucking hook?
Oh, take whatever you want to do.
Huh? Or just let it ring?
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want.
All right.
Good. Yeah, it's probably Paulie. Go ahead.
I guess first, before we get into the wrestling aspect, you want to talk about West Texas State with football, and I think you were there with Brody, Anton, and Funk.
Yeah, you know, there were like 15 guys that came out of West Texas State that wrestled professionally. And when you say three world heavyweight champions, both Funks and myself, and Stan Henson and Brody, and like Hard Richard Murdoch, you know, Dickie, he got arrested. So he always claimed to play there. He never did, but he played in all the alumni games and everything. But he was a very big part of that thing. And Solis, remember the Tito Santana?
Right.
And Tully Blanchard. I mean, the list is on and on. And West Texas was a last resort for me because when I was getting ready to go to college, I got a scholarship to Sullivan State University, which is in Alpine, baseball and football. And I got in some trouble there and I got kicked out of school, stayed there, didn't tell my parents. In Austin, I stayed there a semester. And then I went to Charlton State University, which is another small school, right? And how I got in that university was a friend of mine, Ed Pettit, fullback. He had the same problem at Sullivan State University in Alpine, Texas. And the problem was he had to change schools swiftly. So he went to Charlton, and he gave these guys a tape of the center who was an All-American. His name was Warren Sheeler. But he said it was me. So they brought me, this actually happened. And they brought me in to give me a scholarship at Charlton. And I was having a hard time. I wasn't big into school right there. And so I think I passed 1 hour, which was PE. Right. So I left there. Then I had a scholarship to go to West Texas State. Bobby Duncan and all them kids went there. And so I actually ended up going there, you know, and playing football. And that's where I met the Funks. Right. And Thursday night was at the fairgrounds was I would talk more about Funk because I'm talking about him now a little more somber than I usually would because of his affiliation with me. Right. And his refusal to recognize that the only reason that he didn't have his ranch or his home or his wife or anything is because I made him what he is. And he refuses to, even on your interview that you did with him, to give me any credit except he's using the phrase from the 60s. I believe it still is. The internet even uses it now. Is it a fat egg sucking dog? I think is his phrase for me. So and they all got off on him a little bit, but anyway, they were there, and we would go to the matches. And as a kid growing up, I remember 7 or 8 years old, I produced matches in the backyard, like we see now, where you see the thing on Cactus Jack, right, where he was jumping off the barn and stuff. But we would build a ring, and I would be like the promoter even back then, and I would book the matches at 8, 9, 10 years old, with me always winning. And I was against, Luthez or whoever it was, you know, at the time. And the industry was so intriguing to me that I wanted to do it. And so at West Texas, it gave me the opportunity to, and I didn't start there. You know, I don't know if anybody knows. Well, we're going to find out where I started today. I didn't start there. I had went up to play football with the Hartford Charter Oaks in Hartford, Connecticut, who was in the Continental Football League at the time. Al Rosen was the commissioner. They were trying to make it like the USFL. And I came there from Orlando to Hartford to play football. They went bankrupt, and the football team closed. I went to Tony Santos in Boston Arena Annex. And I said, I'd been down in Amarillo, down in Texas. and I had learned to wrestle, and I needed some work. He sent me to the gym with a guy named Billy Graham, not the Billy Graham.
Right.
Bill Graham, I think his name was. He was a shooter, hooker. Well, I come out, I was about 240, and it was pretty good shape for football. Consider myself, a pretty tough son of a bitch at the time. So he took me in the gym to hook me, I guess. You know what I mean? And we ended up being pretty good friends because all he asked me, he said, "Can you drop kick?" We got in the ring there, and I said, I didn't have a fucking clue, but I knew I was good. So I did. I drop kicked him. He went and told the guys he was good. So they put me on. First night I was against Frank Scarpa for the World Heavyweight Champion in Buster Arena Annex. So I worked 3 shots, and I got enough money to go back to Texas, which was $27.
All right.
And gas was cheaper back then, obviously. So I headed back to Texas. And that's kind of how it got started on that West Texas thing there. And I can be more elaborate on it, but it's actually Joe Blanchard taught me how to work, to wrestle, to talk, to put up the ring, to sell the popcorn. He was my mentor, starting in the business. So I went back, regrouped, trained, and got trained with him. So he was a big influence on me.
What are some other early territories that you were? I think in the 60s you went to Australia with Jim Barnett.
Well, 69 is when we started, and Barnett had Murdoch over there, I think, one time.
Right.
And me and Murdoch had become partners, which is a book in itself, in Kansas City. And you were there 14 weeks. He was making $700 a week, which was top money
right
at that time. 800 he was making, and I was his tag team partner. I was making 700. And after 2 TV shows, I did an interview with me and Murdoch, and Barnett came up to me because he loved that. That's the dog snoring. Is that cool?
No, it's fine. No,
that's fine. Man. Get with it. So he came and he came over to me, Barnett, in front of Murdoch, because he loved doing shit like this. Because Barnett loved to stir shit. If he could stir it, he wanted to keep everybody off balance, And he said, "I'm going to give you $900. And I don't want you to talk anymore, Dickie." You know what I mean? Right in front of him. So he's trying to cause dissension between the two and everything. So the way I got around that, on the interview, I'd do the interview. And at the end, Dickie loved to sing the Tammy Wynette song, "Stand By Your Man." He thought he was a singer. Actually, on TV. And I would say, "Hit it, Dick." And Dick would sing the song, but I wouldn't do an interview. And it was horrible, man. And he had so much heat, they wanted to throw us out of the thing. But, Australia, 13 weeks, beautiful country. After 9 weeks, I was ready to go to the house, yeah.
Also in the 70s, you worked for Leroy McGuirk in Oklahoma.
Yeah, Leroy was, Bill Watts was there, and Leroy was actually the first wrestling picture that I took of myself was in Leroy's territory. And Bill Watts made me the Brass Knucks champion.
Right.
Spuding Monroe, Danny Hodge, Skandar boy Jim Weaver, as you know, was the manager, the Assassins, and it was good. It was good because I really got started then in the business as we know it. Before, because Fritz had actually started me in Dallas, and Joe and them guys, but I wasn't there for about 4 or 5 months, and I learned a lot. And I went to Oklahoma, and then my dad passed away, and Dustin was born on the same day. And so it was, I was still in Dallas to start it at the time with no money. And when I'll never forget this, Fritz came to me and he called me on the phone. Blanchard called me and said, I called him on and said, "My dad passed away. We were supposed to be in Fort Worth on Monday night. This was Saturday. And Dustin was born." He says, "Well, you be waiting because I'm going to come back and get you going to work." He told me the value of this business, the respect that he had for this business, to not miss a shot. There was no contracts. There was no nothing. And he said, "Your dad would want you." My dad was a big fan. So we went to work. Fritz set me down, gave me $280. We didn't have money to bury my dad at the time. I was the oldest. And I got the $280. I worked the show. Me and Joe got drunk. And he brought me back home to Austin. And I guess about 2 or 3 years later, I'd seen Fritz once I left there. And I went back and gave him the $280 back that he had loaned me, and said thank you. And he wouldn't take it, but it was cool. It was kind of a really cool thing with him. He was the best. Fritz and the Sheik, the real Sheik.
Really?
Eddie Forehead was the best two heels, best two gimmicks in the business. Bar none. There was nobody even close because they lived that gimmick.
Right. 24
hours a day. And you could tell the kids nowadays, if you say, what is the most important thing for you to do is to, if you're going to be successful, you have to live that gimmick 24 hours a day. And they were. I mean, Sheik on his credit card, Jesus, entourage with him, And Fritz was just, he demanded a respect that was unbelievable when you were around him,
Right.
And he was over like a son of a bitch. Jesus, was he over in that area. And guys now I don't think guys understand how big the areas were, or the territories as they call them, how big they were to where just in that area you could become like a god, I mean, just wealth or whatever, but it was important.
I guess also in the 70s, you worked for Vern, AWA, with
Yes.
Dick Murdoch, and you did it with Crusher and Bruiser.
Yeah. I did an interview on TV, and the Crusher had retired. And every time the Crusher would retire, he would wait till a new heel came in,
Right.
And he heard me do the interview. He got wind of it, so he said it's coming out of retirement. So thank God he did, because at that time I had worked very few times and made like $5 or $6 grand, which was huge money back then, man. And I remember Ray Stevens, God rest his soul, and Nick Bockwinkel telling me it was so cold up there when I first went there from Texas. They were telling me that if I said I'm going home after the first night, it was like 50 below zero going to Duluth, Minnesota. And I said, I'm going home, man. He said, no, stay here. This is how big money was then. 50 grand was big.
Right.
So we'll buy you a contract for 50 if you don't make more than that, if you stay here. They talked me into staying. And I stayed and brought Murdoch in after I'd had a good run there, And we just raised hell, man. I mean, just...
you guys were heels at the time, right?
Yeah, they in Chicago, they would start, we want juice, we want blood at 7:30 in the Chicago Amphitheater. We would be on with Crusher and the Bruiser. They would start chanting at 7:30, and Bobby Heenan, managed us and the Blackjacks, to want us to go out and get our ass kicked, and we would go out and get our ass kicked, and still have a lot of heat, that's hard to do.
And I guess from there you went to Florida and you feuded with Joe LeDuc around the time.
Florida's a little different story. LeDuc, the first feud there was with, as a heel, was that Murdoch had went there.
Right.
And I went there with him. The Outlaws went there at the time. And we, Eddie and it was my mentor, really, Eddie Graham, and the greatest man in this business, period, ever, in the history of this business, as far as wrestling went. What was on the marquee, how to draw money at a time to where it was real, to where the kisses can snore. Is that right?
That's awesome.
Is that awesome? So, yeah, that's kisses right there. Very excited about this interview. So I went there as a heel,
Right.
And then Jack Briscoe, when he became World Heavyweight Champion, there was a lot of hour Broadways, a lot of hours, a lot of 90 minutes.
Right.
I'll tell you, when I talk about the funks later on, I'll tell you about the 90 minutes with Dory and what me and Terry told Dory when he was booking there after we won 90 minutes and nearly killed the town. Because we could get it done in 10 minutes, you know what I mean?
Right.
And Jack Briscoe, I wrestled in Miami Beach Convention Center. And for an hour and the people turned me there. They actually did. I know it's not a cliche. It's, said this guy's working. The interview's not a work. They actually turned me against Jack because I covered him. He put his foot on the rope, and he was a huge baby face.
Right.
And they just roared, man. And Eddie on the way back that night, he said, "It's time." You know what I mean? And Paxson Nam and Gary Hart were the ones that turned me, and it was an unbelievable run. And our TV was syndicated, I guess, into New York at 12 midnight. And like an Icon, Bob Dylan, or it became it became the thing to watch before you went out at midnight. Right. And the first Garden show, which I'm jumping ahead, that I was on, I never made a TV for Vince, for Senior. It was all off the Florida TV the first time, and we sold out. Me and Superstar did everything off Florida. And actually never made a TV there until after 2 or 3 of the Garden shows,
Also, at the time, you worked Georgia and the Carolinas.
Yeah, Barnett.
Right.
Right.
And then right before 84, you were still in Florida. And what year was it when you were down there with Kevin Sullivan and he was doing the devil worship and stuff?
It was in the end of the 70s.
Right.
Going into the 80s.
What are some of your memories on that stuff?
He was even now today I call him the devil, he was, he shot with that shit. And, he had a following, and he had people that, hated him, and how I would bring the people in television back to reality. Yes, we would sell it so hard that he was a devil. But in my interviews, I would make sure that they knew somehow at the end, whether it was a smile or whatever, that he wasn't really the devil. You know what I mean? And but they believed he was. They had Orlando. He had like 10 or 12 occult following devil worshipers on the front row every week on Sunday night. And in Orlando, they had the parking lot was fenced in by like a 10-foot high fence. And these guys had a band that came in, and the Rednecks and Cowboys, they knew it, right? And he stabbed me with a golden spike in the heart, which he would take out of a box, with a powder on it, and stabbed me in the heart and beat me in Orlando, put him over. And they went outside. We were getting ready to leave. We see this commotion. All the fire trucks are there. The Rednecks burnt this band to the ground outside. So he was a great heel, and still could be. In this era here, anybody you can work till you're 80 or 70, right? Because now it's like they made it like a movie.
Yeah, it's not right.
You know what I mean? So I'm playing a part. Okay, we got a new movie coming, and you're going to be John Wayne in the movie. God, it's phenomenal. I mean, the things that they do at which I just seen and talk about later, but the things that the kids do at ECW are as close to the old territory, the old time respect, the old time workers that we had, only with new shit. Right. They're so quick and fast and do some unbelievable stuff at ECW. So, yeah, it's changed a lot,
Getting back to Florida with the Kevin Sullivan, was there a time where TV stations were scared to air some of that stuff because it was over the edge?
You always heard that, You always said, "Boy, we can't do that." But Eddie Graham was, like I say, he knew he didn't like it, some of it, but he knew it was hot. He knew I had a hold of something, and he was grooming me to book. Right. He was grooming me to be powerful in this industry from 74.
You were booking in 76, 77, right?
Yeah, but from 74 is when he turned me and started to groom me, to take a hold of the wrestling industry. And at probably in 83, 84, 85, the two most powerful guys in this industry was Vince McMahon Jr. and myself. And I think even the guy that does you kids Bibles that you read, Meltzer, thinking 80 something, I was the Booker of the Year or some shit, to where he even recognized that I had a lot of power. I had 120, 130 people with their lives, families, that you had to take care of, and it was difficult. And anytime somebody would leave or they had to leave, they always had the bad thing that you put them down or you pushed them down or you held them down or it was your fault, not realizing, what was involved in it. Some of them not realize they didn't have no fucking talent, But, yeah, so power became a big thing with me. And, that's probably one of the knocks that I do get. It's a power that I had by putting myself in a situation to dominate the industry. But I had the ability to bring a group of people, no matter what color they were, into a building. I had that ability nobody had. You seen it the other night. No. Even at my age now, you have the ability. You either have that or you don't. You cannot teach it. You can't coach it. You can't say, this guy is going to be charismatic. And by just looking at Valentine would look at the people for 10, 15 minutes, Johnny. And when he did, I'd seen him come in the ring. They didn't have rails. I've seen him actually, have riots before he ever touched Jose Lothario. Well, before he ever touched Wild Bull Curry, who must have been 180 when he was still wrestling, back then. And, so, that ability to do that I had. And that's the thing that not hurts me, but pisses me off the most. Is when you read even today and you read these kids, they're on the message boards and all this shit. Oh shit, Dusty Rhodes. But they don't understand. They didn't understand they wasn't in that era. They only got hearsay for somebody that didn't like this guy. And that's fine. But I had the ability to put asses in the seats. I had the ability to be the executive producer before it even had a title. I had the ability to write the shows. I created so much talent and gave them names and gave them their way out there. And never had this is 10% or 5% or whatever. And they were great students. Paulie was a student of mine, to where guys would run around and, joke and get ready for their match. Paulie would always sit in the meetings, or he would sit by me, or he would ask questions because he knew what he wanted to do.
Right.
And he knew that his source, his teacher, was at this time still a young guy, but actually in the fray. I was actually out there. You can't tell me, you guys can't sit here and tell me. And I always said this, I have never read a what they used to call the dirt sheets, and now the Bible of the sheets. But you cannot tell me if this guy Meltzer is so knowledgeable of this industry, why has he not opened his own territory, ran his own business? Because the first thing he would do would put himself on top, make himself the champion, and everybody on the net would hate his fucking ass. So he's smart enough to know that. Right. And I guess he's a good guy. I don't know the guy. I don't care. I think me, you, our industry needs that. At the time, probably in the 80s, everybody thought, oh God, he's exposing the business. But, I don't think so. I think we need that. I think he's got a pulse on our industry that we need, like it or not. They would come and tell me, they'd say, oh, he said this, he said that. Whoa, what the, I get that. I get 100 guys saying that about me a day. You know what I mean? So, it changed, and it was it's my young'un, Cody Garrett. He won a gold medal last night at the 140-pound class, 8th grade. Anyway, he lost my concentration. Yeah, so I got off on Meltzer, and I shouldn't have. But we're
going to bring it up anyway.
Yeah, so I got more to say about it, so go ahead.
Okay, before we get into that, I guess we'll talk about the NWA. You went in full time, I guess, in '84 when Dory was booking.
Dory, a classic wrestler. Okay, not too good, not a great interviewer, not charismatic.
All right,
but he was a funk and great on the mat. Hooker a little bit, respect him. Don't get your ass kicked in there. But slow. What I mean by slow, he tried his hand at booking a couple times, and everywhere he booked, every place that he booked was on a downside. So I can't say whether he was going to be a great booker or he was good, but he had 90-minute Broadways in his head when me and Terry Funk had 10 minutes blood, guts, chains, chairs out the back, you know,
Right.
things in our head. So it became like a contest between us. And I always, for some reason, went in. I would get the job after he left.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I remember sitting and looking at him one day. He was sitting there in Jim Crockett's office. And he had on a brown cowboy boot and a greenish cowboy boot. And then one day he came in his tennis shoes and he brought his boots. And they were two different color and they were of the same side foot. They were on the right side. And I said, he's slow. You know what I mean? Maybe that hurts his booking. And I think he was working because the Funks, believe me, no matter what that interview he did, they always work. Everything he said would work. They're workers. They're working you and you and you. They're working us. He's a worker. He's a worker. That's all he is. Jerry's a worker. Dory got up. Dory got up. Right? Said goodbye to Jim Crockett. In his office, opened the door and walked into a closet. We sat there. Minute, come out, not even flustered, turned and went out the door. That's Dory Funk.
That's great.
And, but I say, you know, he's working.
Right.
You know, but maybe he wasn't. That's what I mean by slow. Maybe he wasn't working because I've seen him do things like that. But I got so much real respect for him and what he accomplished and what he's doing now. That he's one of the guys I really respect, Junior. I really do.
Right. Well, now we're in the period of NWA and there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
I guess you came in 84 full time. You did the Flair match at Starrcade, was it?
Starrcade was, let me tell you how that got going. The country was in need to go forward. That's one thing that I've been able to do is to, even though as I got older, was change with the time. If I needed Willie Nelson on the concert or Limp Bizkit, I believe that's the right name for them guys on the concert, I would change. I wasn't just going to say, I'm a Willie fan. I want him on concerts all the way through 2000. You know what I mean? So I was able to change. Jim Crockett, I was with Eddie in Florida. Jim Barnett had booked me out, kind of like they booked a champion at the time. And Barnett was my booker, but I worked Florida and I booked Florida. When I would get tired, Eddie would give me 2 or 3 months. Jim would book me out and I would go all over the country. Me and Andre traveled because TBS was so hot. I became his first golden boy in 1974, 76 off of that TV. I could go anywhere in the country and make money. So they would book me out, but Jim Crockett was having a little hard time with the promotion. Ole Anderson was the booker. Dory Jr. was the booker. It was a small company run by a family like the McMahons. Okay. And in the mid 80s, it was as powerful as I said, as McMahon. There was nobody. That's a lost era. When you see these, I'll talk about this now because I really get pissed off about these A&E specials and stuff. But going back to that Starrcade, okay? Jim Crockett said, I know you're good at this. You did the Last Tango in Tampa of naming shows and making them kind of bigger than they are because that's really what I want to do, executive produce, make shows special and big, you know, at the time. And can you do something, you know? And I worked for Eddie at the time, and I wouldn't leave him. I would go out, but I had never ventured out for a long period of time out of Florida. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And me and Barry Windham, who was understudy of mine also, were on the way to Jacksonville, which is a 200-mile trip. And I was letting him drive the truck, and I was jotting down names. I was trying to think of that November, Thanksgiving, autumn. One of the names I came up with was Autumn Bomb. And I said, man, Barry said, I don't think it would be right, you know, for the Autumn Bomb because if it didn't draw then, boy, you know. Right. But he wanted something that would last forever, like a movie, like Gone with the Wind. On the way back, after a couple beers, I kept singing, you know, they're always talking about matches, centuries, immaculate decades, and all these things, you know. I said, here we are in the 80s. I said, I actually renamed a decade. I actually made up a new terminology, Rhodism, if you will, and it was Starrcade. I said, how about the matches at Starrcade? to where his promo, Jimmy's promo, we had the match of the decade, the match of the centuries. And now as we move on into our industry, the match, Starrcade.
Right.
I wanted to be like when WrestleMania then came to where Starrcade was something that was the granddaddy of them all on pay-per-view or whatever. And at that time, I said, yeah, I like that. So I created a scenario with a attorney's office to where we had all the, I don't know if you have that tape.
I have all this. Yeah.
To where I made the show mean something. Like there was all these promoters from all over the world.
Right.
And he got the bid and he unveiled Starrcade. And it was huge. It was never before done. It was a movie. I made a movie.
Right.
I mean, I wasn't starring in it. That goes back to contradict all these guys that said he starred in everything he did. It's not true. I made that movie. I started in it later. But in making that movie, I went to great pains behind the scenes to produce it and direct it and to I've seen a new life from me, you know what I mean? To where Florida at the time, to where you said nowadays they give a guy $150,000, $200,000 to make one shot a year and do absolutely jack shit, that in Florida I was making $120,000, $150,000. And I was on top of the world. I was a king. I mean, I was God there. Governors would come to me to get elected. And they would. And that's egotistically true.
Right.
So Starrcade then became the event for Jim Crockett. And he had me come that night. And flew from Florida to Eddie, could I go to Starrcade? You always ask permission to leave the territory, to go, to give notice respectfully. And because I'd created it, he let me go. I didn't really care about the matches or what they had lined up. But I put on a 3-piece suit and I went to Greensboro and I seen the most unbelievable thing unfold. The greatest dog collar match of this day with Piper and Greg Valentine. To this day, nothing compared with it. And I seen this thing unfold. I said, the whole new world's getting ready to open up here. It's getting ready to go balls out. Because even after that, when we would run Starrcade on Thanksgiving night,
right,
he would put cards in the seats, selling, this is how sharp we were at that time, selling the event for next year, where you could write and get your tickets for the Southeast Conference Championship game next year. I remember the second Starrcade we did, the very next day in the office, we had already sold $100,000 worth of tickets for next November. And that was unheard of back then.
That was 84, 85?
Yeah, that was unheard of. 83 was the first one.
Right,
that was the, and I went back home and about a week later, I got a check for $15,000. That's what I got for creating Starrcade that we still watch today.
Wow.
And I didn't work for him, but that was the most money I had made probably at one time. And then he flew to Tampa. And he says, I want you to come, book my territory. Steamboat and all them guys. I want you to create 4 events a year. I want you to name them. I'll give you $2,500 to book. I'll give you a percentage of 7 towns. This was unheard of back then. There's no attorneys. There's no, it's me and him.
Right.
Over at Steak and L.
Right.
And I'll give you so much a percentage when you wrestle. I said, I couldn't in my mind figure out how much money. I said, Jesus, this is, this is unreal. There's a lot of money here. And without thinking a lot about it, I had already set in my mind the video for the Boogeyman Jam, which was not one of the 4 events, but it was one in between. And I wanted to try it back in Greensboro, just with the video, coming off the video, the angle he had with the Assassins and Paul Jones, Jimmy Valiant. I wanted to say, I want to see if a video can drive an event, not the match, not so much the angle coming in and cutting Jimmy's hair. Okay. But if the video could sell the tickets once, on Monday, once it played on Saturday, on Tuesday, ticket sales, you knew You knew if you had them by the ass. You knew of that movie. It's like now Blair Witch doing so much money the first day. You know what I mean? You know right then if you got them.
Right.
Okay. So I had video too. So that was one. Okay. Jim Crockett Cup was the other creation. My favorite one of all was Starrcade, of course, with the Great American Bash, which we still do today.
Right.
So I have movies still running today. If I would have copyrighted them back then, if I would have thought back then, I mean, I'd still be sitting here in this, farmhouse like deal out here in the country a little bit, but it would be phenomenal,
Right.
And then every event up until the Bischoff area I named and created that way. And a lot of people don't know that, but that's the way it was done. But Starrcade was, it was a big event. So I said, yeah, I will. I said, okay. I called Eddie shortly after that. Eddie killed himself for not the reasons that I left, but that was the first time I had ever left him, or left Florida to venture out on my own. And I guess Mercedes, there were more big cars in the parking lot of Jim Crockett's promotion than Vince McMahon had ever seen in one time. Everybody had a Porsche. Everybody had Mercedes. I mean, we were rolling in money. We had 2 planes. We had a jet. This is Charlotte, North Carolina, man. We had dreams. We wasn't scared. We went into Capitol Center July the 4th when Vince gave us a building to teach us a lesson. Turned away 5,000 people, had over 19,000 in the Kevin Sullivan's creation, the Tower of Doom, But when you talk about creations, I mean, when you talk about one of my favorite creations of all was the War Games. That cage, that idea. I mean, I sat in the car with Jimmy. I did a lot of stuff driving down the road, like people wrote music, and I created this thing, man, and it came to life. And you see it today, and you're proud. But everybody don't say, how did that get there? How'd the bull rope how did you ever create a fucking bull rope match? So they were movies to me. They were creating movies. It wasn't the guys so much as what I wanted to put on the TV for you to absorb. So we were ahead of our time. We were on a roll. We were hot. And we were drawing money everywhere. We were making money. We were partying. We were flying. People were taking drugs and dope, and I mean, it was just, the Robert Earl Keen song, The Road Goes On Forever and the Party Never Ends.
Right.
Yeah, that was us, but it ended. It ended for us. And then then the times went on downslide.
Before we get into 88 and stuff like that, talk about, there's so much talent from 84 to 88. You had Tully, Wyndham, Magnum, Nikita, Cornette, Midnight. Everybody was there. I mean, what was it like working with some of those guys I just mentioned?
Well, I went in the first day when Crockett brought me in there, right? And I wanted $3,000 instead of 25 to book, because I said I want $500 more than George Scott, because George Scott was the booker for Crockett when he was really doing business. Right. And they thought he was a genius, and he wasn't a genius. Wahoo McDaniel, Johnny Valentine were the geniuses. They thought of their own matches. They thought of their own finishes. They thought of their own angles. He got all the credit. Right. So I said, I don't want to make as much money as that, as he did. So Jimmy, that was one of the perks that I said, even if it's $1 more than you pay George Scott, because George Scott was not God as a booker. George Scott was not shit as a booker. Everything that as he booked was done by the guys. The guys, the Steamboats, the Pipers, and all the guys that were there. I walked in to the warehouse for a meeting. Crockett introduced me as new booker, new head of wrestling operations. The word booker was thrown out the window. And booker, to me, I hate the word booker. Right. You're creative. You're executive producer. You're creative person. So I went to my office. James J. Dillon, who was my right hand in Florida, my first assistant booker ever with Jerry Briscoe. James J. Dillon. They started coming in. The Pipers, the Steamboats. They all left. Because I said in the meeting, at 7 o'clock, there's no card playing. The bullshit stops here. I'm here to make you guys a living, make me a lot of money, make the company even more money. It stops here. You're on time. Same rules we always had. As I had grown up, and I just wanted to respect it. If you don't like a finish, there's no gray area. If it's mine, There's no talking about it. The door is there. Here they come. Steamboat, Piper. They lined up. They left me. There we go now. Just a guy that I bought from Florida. Now trying to run a new empire that's just come off of Starrcade with Black Bart and Ron Bass. Thank God for them two guys. Dick Slater, they pitched in, you know what I mean?
Right.
They took a shot. They ran. They worked the angles. They worked their ass off. They made some money, but they stood by me. And them guys left. And I never would keep a guy against his will or say, I want to go to New York. I just signed with New York. I would give him a hug. Like I said, I heard you heard me tell a story. And I'd say, go on, good luck. You want me to do the job tonight for the guy? I said, no. Go on. It's no use of prolonging. So, Starrcade got their booking. That talent was, at the time, the best talent Crockett had there. Had the best talent anywhere in the world. It was unreal. And my closeness with Vince Sr. And then with Junior came into play during that era too. And I knew Junior because of a restaurant meeting with me and Barnett in New York City. I knew the night that he bought Georgia. I knew the night that Barnett started to work for him. Right. I was there in the restaurant the night all that shit took place. I knew it was coming. So I was trying to prepare the Crockett promotion for it. So,
right. What are some of your thoughts?
Jesus. Damn, man. Huh?
I don't even know where to start. Magnum TA. What are your thoughts on Magnum?
He was the chosen one.
Right.
He was the golden child. He was in the movie industry, the sports industry. He was next. The torch was to be passed to him. He was a movie star, facial look-alike. He was a charismatic son of a bitch. He had the deep blue eyes that looked into that camera. I helped him to learn to interview in a way to where it's no bullshit. When me and you wrestled, that's bullshit. When he went out there for that 20 minutes with Tully Blanchard in the I Quit match, you actually believe that this was a shoot.
Right. Awesome.
He was that good. It was unreal. He was probably my closest friend. And it was a tremendous loss to this industry to not see him right now, because right now he would be towards the end, but he would have already made 30 movies, big movies. He was far more at that period of time, far more charismatic than Hogan. He had it all. He was unbelievable. And he was he loved women. You know what I mean?
Right.
And women loved him. If you wanted to be seen anywhere, you walked around with him. You know what I mean? Even the egg-sucking dog walked around with him, just to get noticed. You know what I mean? So he had his way, and he went down, and I cried, and we moaned, and I don't think even the kids nowadays realize how many cards and letters from all over the world he got per day. 40,000 a day were coming in the hospital. This guy was over. Jesus. And but from day one, he had that ability to say, I'm not going to lay on my ass in this room. I will walk out of here. Right. And he runs his own business. He's successful. He's married. He's got a beautiful baby. He is the story right now in a book to be written about. Don't tell me I can't do anything. Nobody that I know I have more respect for than him. But he had it, in the wrestling, he was there, and he went down. The Andersons cage against me and him, Charlotte, North Carolina, 12,000 sold out already. His most hated shoot rival was Nikita Koloff.
What's the about?
From that, they was hated. I mean, it was a shoot with these two guys. And Saturday before the Sunday show, Jimmy Crockett came up to the house, and he came up to my office, and he said, tomorrow, what you going to do? And I sit there, and I said, I've been thinking a long time about this. I said, I'm going to bring Nikita Koloff out with me. I get emotional when I think about it. But he said, Jesus, I never thought of that. You know? Well, that's what he paid me for. Of course, he never thought of that. So I called Nikita and I said, man, Nikita always wanted to be a baby face, you know?
Right.
Nikita considered himself James Bond of Russia or something, you know? And he was great. And at the time, you know what made him great? He lived his gimmick. Every day, he worked at a gym for a year, never talked to any English at all. You know what I mean? Never. They actually said he is from Russia.
Right.
And he's the biggest, baddest son of a bitch, 300 pounds in the world, you know? And he said, yeah, you know? And I'll never forget when I brought him out. It was one of them nights to where you never forget if you're a fan of any sporting entertainment event. It was an event. It wasn't a match. It was an event. And so that's how he took off, you know, and that's how that came about.
Barry Windham.
My kid.
All right.
Yeah. Dustin, him. Very most natural talented beside Dustin, I think, the kid I ever seen in the ring. Just natural. Don't have to go, let's go to the gym or school.
Right.
And teach him something. Don't have to. He was there. And he was very close with me. Mentally too. And I wonder now, I don't know if anybody's ever asked this question, is I wonder why he's not ever become a book for somebody.
Right. I
think because he likes staying at home. He likes doing what he wants to do. You know, he always has, you know, he's had the ability to be champion. And he just he was like, he's got so much Murdoch in him. Well, Murdoch didn't give a shit. Murdoch knew he could outwork any man in this business. He knew he could out-comic any man in this business. And he could out-serious him. And then, and Barry was like that. But he was with me on all of the decisions in private. Once I talked around and we were out, it's kind of like your lieutenant. He was my lieutenant. And he was even more than JJ. I would say, okay, I went in there and I shot my wad on this thing. What do you think? You know? And he would tell me, or he would add to it. And he was good. He was good. Very creative person.
And you made lots of money with Rock and Roll Feud with Midnights. What are some of your memories on Jim Cornette and Midnights?
We did. We took a page out of Memphis, and I'd already done it with the Starrcade and the Boogeyman Jam. I said, let's use videos to see if we can get these guys over. Not working on TV in a 5-minute match to get over. You know what I mean? A get over match. Right. You know what I'm saying? Let's use videos before they come. Bring them right in, put them right on time, and see what happens. Video. Spartanburg, South Carolina, them against the Russians. 40 minutes later, in one match on TV, they took the titles. Rock and Roll Express. I remember drinking beer. That wasn't me. I wasn't involved in that match. See, that goes back to the ego. Dusty was on top. They went bam. It was like the Beatles. So we had not, in my reign, done $100,000 in Charlotte, North Carolina Coliseum to that point. You know, over 100, 130 or whatever. And I put them with the Russians there by themselves. Me and Flair and Tully and everybody went down to some other fucking town, right? We did $15,000, right? We did $130,000, man. You couldn't get in the building. The Andersons in came against them. But the mix for them was Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. Right. That was their niche. That was their guys. You know what I mean? Right. It's like me with Funks and with Harley, with Flair and Kevin Sullivan. That was my guys. You know what I mean? That was my niche. Right. And, it was like a traveling road show. These are the guys I'm going to work with. And their matches were phenomenal. And they drew unreal money. But they were so great at 20, 30, 40 minutes to where you really believe that this was happening. And that's really what we dealt in back then, is believability, for you to believe that this was a shoot. And sometimes it would be, but to believe that. And now we've changed, except for what I said earlier about the other night being with some new kids that kind of understand that. And I think even if they don't, they acted like they did. They did it out of respect for me and out of respect for Paulie or when they see me. But I really think they were more sincere when they see me, because they were students of the game. It's like that. So Yeah, they were great. Midnight was great. Cornette was greatest manager in our business.
How would you compare him with Paul?
I was going to get to Paul, but Gary Hart was the first guy that I had. And I thought Gary Hart, for the area he was in, Florida and Texas and everything, was the best. Okay,
right.
Then J.J. Dillon was damn good in a different way. Okay, but as far as you hated, I mean, these two guys, you wanted to strangle these two guys. You know, chicken dick guys was Paulie Dangerously and Jim Cornette. And right away, you knew how creative they were. But man, they had 2 guys apiece, 4 guys apiece that could work their ass off. That would happen. They had timing. I think Cornette had a little edge on Paulie because of the talent he had to use at the time. So that's where he would get the edge. But they were by far the 2 most, what do you call it in the old days, a weasel, like managers.
Right.
That you just said, man, this guy's mama gives him everything that he has. And the old man over here says, nah, that's not fake. That's fake. They don't really have a mama that rich. This bullshit. Yeah, at home, you say this guy has not done nothing to deserve what even going out there. So they captivated their niche or their business because of their talent. And yeah, I think the guys that were with, Cornette at different times were a little bit better. Workers, per se, it was a niche again. He had been around him so long. He was the Midnight Express. For Paulie had a lot of guys, and when we created the Dangerous Alliance with Rhodes and guys, he really had an opportunity there he was showcased with some big guys.
Did you see Steve Austin as a major superstar back then? Did you see it?
Without a doubt, you can ask him. Yeah. I mean, he knew I knew. Him and Dustin. And this was not Dustin's father talking. This is the guy running the company. So these fucking guys, both of them took different paths. But 20-minute Broadway in Chicago with Austin and Dustin. I sat in the back and watched it. And some other guys watched it with me. I said, man, they were niched together, never got to work together. You know what I mean? Never got a program together. Not as Dustin Rhodes and the tights and,
Right.
They had a niche together that was just, it was perfect. And then when Austin went up there with the DiBiase thing, I thought it was yes. But the most creative genius of our time in our sports entertainment industry, Vince McMahon Jr., period. Besides me.
That's a good question. Here we go.
Besides me.
What was it like to fight Vince head on in the 80s?
It was fun because you would go to Philly. We would be in the Civic Center, and they would be at the Spectrum. We started with 1,200 people or 900 people in the Civic Center. Pretty soon we got 8,000. We're busting balls, the Warriors, and everybody there. We're busting balls in that building. And we go to Marriott. They'd close the room off, and we'd all sit back there together. You know what I mean? WWF.
Right. How's that those days?
And yeah, NWA and Crockett. And it was good. It was a war. And you always wondered what they were doing. You know what I mean? We couldn't get in their buildings.
Right.
We would get one of their buildings and do good. We would get a building in Pittsburgh and do this shit. Except for the record to date. In Pittsburgh Arena with me and the Boss Man. Me and Big Bubba in the cage. Scalping tickets. That's when we finally turned, and there I was again. Okay, well, it's Dusty Rhodes. But how do you think Big Bubba put all them people in the building? How do you think they got in the building?
Right.
It was a package that I put with you. It was a package. But then there's a match that there's something up here at the end that they would die to see. That's Limp Bizkit.
Right.
Limp Bizkit, who are great kids. But that's them here, and they might have 4 other bands here. Doesn't mean they're worse than them, but there's somebody that you want to see. So that was a turning point for the company, the Pittsburgh show. And I think if we hadn't tried to run the whole world, we'd have probably still been there, without the move to Texas and everything. But it was, and Vince was conversations back and forth. We always kept in touch. Junior and myself. We grew up to business, same age. We grew up together. I was a star for him. So we kept in touch as we still do today. You know,
even when you competed, you kept in touch.
Yeah. It was not a like you know, how you doing or whatever. Not much was ever said about the business.
Right.
And he had a great ability to make you feel bad. You know what I mean? Because of how, you know, because he just kicked your ass without saying it. You know, that's just the way it was. But yeah, it was great.
What about your professional rivalry? I guess with in the '80s with Hogan, you guys were both top baby faces of both companies.
Magnum, I think Terry. You know, he had the. You know, that time it kicked in. I remember seeing the story in Bill Aptooth magazine, Wrestling Illustrated, I guess, or whatever it was, that had the picture of him and Hogan on the cover, and I said, there they are. You know, this is and that's why I was wanting somebody else to do more.
Right.
See, and that goes back to me again. All with me. And that's not true. I had just signed Marlon Brando for this studio. You know, Jesus. You know, so yeah, but he got all of the play because of New York, because of Vince, because of the shows that he was on, and we were a Southern company, and we had Rhubarb Jones or Rhubarb whoever doing the ring announcing. You know what I mean? We had the greatest announcer in the world, Gordon Soler, or the anchor. But we had some good things going. But he outran me on the out of business side, you know, in the entertainment world side, and that was Vince.
Right.
Vince put him there. So I just stayed wrestling arena. And yeah, I was a big baby face but I never got to where he was because of the outside stuff that he did.
What are some of your memories of your feud with Tully and Flair? Tully first, I guess. Barbed wire match first.
Well, they're both separate. Tully was not a big guy. In the mold of Shawn Michaels, maybe. Could work his ass off. Could talk. Good finishes. Crybaby at times. You know. I made a lot of money with him when you think back. You know, when money was money, where you say 300, 400 grand, 600 grand, compared to 150, 700, 800,000 bucks in the interior, different eras. But I made a lot of money with Tully. But I think Tully received the spinoff of Flair, you know. And the Horsemen were the first electrified group in the history of our industry that was kind of different. And where did that all come from? So you say, you know, and I think Tully actually coined the phrase one time on TV.
Right.
And I took that, and I would like to take credit for that, but I'm not sure if I said it or he said it. But I think Tully did. And we took it and ran with it. And Flair. You ever see the movie The Flim Flam Man?
No.
You know what a Flim Flam Man is?
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, you listen to me?
Yes.
He's the ultimate Flim Flam Man. Hey brother, I love you, man. You know what I mean? Knowing deep in his heart, he don't give a shit about you. He gives a shit about himself. That's fucking shoot. He cares about himself more than anything else. And of all the people that I talk about or had made money with, I made money with him. But one thing that he maybe didn't know is I knew he was a Flim Flam Man. And when you have an enemy that you can use him to the best of your ability, because deep down he can't stand me. Deep down he said, I'm his enemy. We're enemies. And he was surely not as great as I made him to be. He had the ability when he first started, and he wanted to be Rickus Rhodes. The way to Bismarck, South Dakota was 300 pounds. He said, he's driving my car, driving me to the matches. And he says, I've came up with a name. He says, I want to be Ramblin' Rickus Rhodes. And I told him, I said, make your own way. Be your own self because you have talent and you're going to be something. And he can tell you this true story. And don't take that name. It's not that I don't want you to have that name. but make your own way because he had the ability to do that. And in our early times together, we were great friends and he was super. But money does strange things to you. Power, insecurity of knowing how good you are. And he's that good. Maybe the best. They say that a lot. I think Hardy was the best, but they say, they always, if you read the net for whatever reason, I've just started to learn to work the fucking thing because I'm on the webpage, So it says DustyRhodes.net / whatever that means,
right.
The slash backwards, but we're building a page. So they talk about him like he was God, you know what I mean? And he wasn't,
But
maybe he was to him.
On top too.
I think so, yeah. Well, even now he can outwork anybody that a group has. So that's ability. That's not the personal side with me and him. I know he's a flim guy. Okay, I know that, and he knows that I know that, and he might think I am. So at least we know where we stand. So we never have a problem. There was never no problem. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was far greater work than Tully Blanchard or Iron. Iron was just Iron. There's 100 Iron Andersons, but there was not an Iron Anderson that could actually get it done like him to where he knew what needed to be done. He knew you two guys, you and him and you two guys won a tag match with me and the Warriors. And he knew that he had to get us ready and they were going to take the fall on him. But brother, that he had to get the thing ready. You two guys had to be stars. He knew his role and he was great at it. And he had written this book about me revolutionizing the industry. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. And he's, and he's still in the industry. So that's cool. I like to see guys that are still in our business that help make it.
Next guy is Ric Flair. Thoughts on Ric Flair?
Well, I told you the story about Ramon and Ricky Rhodes. Played at Wisconsin, I believe, in, football. Gagne broke him in. He was selling insurance, I believe, to nurses or something. In Minnesota at the time he was broken in. So he'd already been out in the work job. He had a beautiful wife at the time. And has a beautiful wife now. And he had that's where we different in age sometimes. Because I know when he was working and when he broke in, he had to be as old as I was. He had to be. So now, if we're both 45 now, since this is a shoot interview, that was one thing that always bugged me, his age. But his ability to now still, like I said, outwork just by half-ass working a lot of guys in this industry. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And a lot of years we had dogs are everywhere. That's Moonshine Max right there. I don't know if you've seen, but he's looking through the door. He had the great ability and the flim to take care of himself and to make you feel really sorry for him in and out of the industry, out of the business. Ring-wise, financially, booking him pretending, trying to be a booker. A lot of respect for him in that aspect of this game. If we're just talking about that, he might be the best. Some say he is. I know he has a great following of people that don't really know the business. But we made a lot of money together. But I think I made him more money than he made me. And I think that's the key to Ric Flair. And success to him and his family is, I love his family, his kids, I just always want him to have success because I don't want to see a guy like Rick, who did so much for this business, be down to the point of saying, Jesus, you know what I mean? We owe guys like Rick, this business does, because he's repaid in full. So a lot of respect for him in that aspect. But personally, as you could tell from my verbiage here, there's always been this inner battle with me and him on a personal level. But, Rick is Rick.
All right.
18 times world champion, I believe. I beat his ass 3 times.
All right, UWF with Bill Watts at one time. WWF basically was bought out by Turner, and I think that's what happened, right?
No. You asking me? You want to know?
No,
I'm going to save that for the book. Am I going to tell that here?
I don't know.
No, I'll tell you that, Crockett bought.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. See, it wasn't Turner. It was Crockett then. And we didn't have Turner.
That was not until 88.
Yeah, we didn't have that until Jim Crockett went up to New York and Stamford, Connecticut, and gave a check to Vince McMahon. This is what he told me for TBS. For $1 million or whatever it was, $2 million, whatever the shit it was. This is what I wanted. Vince didn't want it anyway,
Right.
At the time. And we took it and it made us help put us back on, help keep that build that we were in, going. But we didn't have TBS. We only had syndication at first. Crockett bought it from Vince McMahon, who got it from Jim Barnett and Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Right. UWF, when you were booking that, and a lot of guys thought there would have been a lot of potential for like an interpromotional feud. And when
I didn't book the UWF.
No, NWA.
Yeah, the NWA. The NWA, the UWF, when we bought Watts.
Right, when all of town.
Eddie Gilbert booked there.
Right.
Yeah. He was our booker. He was under me. I mean, he was under he was under the umbrella of Crockett.
Right.
But that we couldn't go down there. So he would book the towns. I would book the big shows. There was kind of a war there. But I don't think, I can honestly say seriously, looking back on it, I don't think at the time I had the knowledge of that interwar thing like I do now. And I think I think that we were busy fighting Vince, much less trying to fight an interwar with ourselves. And I think I looked at it kind of like that as far as the creative aspect of it. Mistake probably on my part at that time because they had their own talent, their own people, and they were very successful. But I don't know. The overall picture to me was not them. And we owned them. We owned it.
But because a lot of guys came in the NWA and they kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, they did because the reason was that we had fought so hard with that group of guys to compete that even we owning the company, I was loyal to this team. This team had won a Super Bowl.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know that's kind of corny or honky shit to say, but we had won a Super Bowl with this Crockett team. And you had to be really exceptional to move into there. But one group that was the Midnight Express.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it was. It could have maybe been done different, but it's too late to worry about it now.
How did the concept of the Bunkhouse Stampede come about?
Boy, I got heat for that, man. And I got heat with Lex Luger and Flair and Sting and these guys. Is that the bull rope was a unique thing that I created because of the Indian strap for me, and created that. That was the first extreme match, real new extreme match besides the War Games and everything. And on the War Games, it's my deal, I think that a group like ECW, first ever, Sell It to Paulie, War Games, anything goes, would be phenomenal.
Right.
I just take a meager fee for that. But the Bunkhouse Stampede, we had cage matches, right? And our cage match was different than Vince's. Vince's, you put a cage in to get out. I didn't ever understand that concept. You get out the door, you go over the top, you win the match.
Right.
Ours was to keep the horsemen out, to keep the evil guys out, to keep the people out from getting in and finally finishing this thing with you and so. Let's finish this match. And something always happened in some cases, but a lot of finishes were done in the cage. So the concept of the two, and me being the cowboy from Texas and the bull of the woods, the baddest, in the deal, the concept came for the Bunkhouse Stampede because we needed, and now we had started, instead of doing 4 pay-per-views at 3, we were doing 5, we were doing 6. So and naming the different things, I wanted different concepts and different things to happen, lethal lottery, and there were things that I had to create. And the Stampede was not a throwaway pay-per-view, but it was a pay-per-view that was at a time of year to where it always didn't do as well as the other ones, but we had to do it, and we could make a little money off of it. And it was over the top, come as you are, bunkhouse rules. Because back then you always had the street fights. But in our company, it was bunkhouse street fights called the cowboy, that era. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't like the New Jersey, the Chicago. What the hell is the difference between the Chicago, New Jersey, and the Texas street fight? You know? So mine was, the concept was, in the old days, we did, here we come again. I said, video precede what I'm going to do. Bunkhouse, the Old West. Right. We showed all the deal. You know what I mean? It's like Midnight Rider. We showed the video preceded this thing. And so we told the story of the old days, the bunkhouse and all that stuff. So it just came about like that. And I had won the Stampede because I was a creator. I was the bull of the woods. I created this fucking thing. There was no other cowboys in this goddamn thing. You know what I mean? What, did Luger want to be a fucking cowboy? I mean, you know what I mean? So that was my match, you know? And I won it again the second year in the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. I remember getting on the plane and them questioning me about that. When did you put yourself over on this thing? And I kind of laughed to myself, you know what I mean? And it was just we don't even do it no more, but it was just an era that thing did some business, you know, and that's how it came about. And I was the king of it. It's my match. Nobody else is going to win that fucking match with me.
All right. Thoughts on Lex Luger, Sting? You mentioned them briefly. They came in, big stars.
Sting was my protege. I mean, my youngin', talented, charismatic. Still to this day working on interviews with him. Some days he's good, some days he's horrible.
Right.
He wants to be a movie star now, and I think he will. He's he set us on fire for a little while there. Him and Flair set us on fire. Luger, nobody looked as good as Luger. Shit. God. He's chopping Wahoo. The late Hiro Matsuda. He just passed away.
Right.
God rest his soul. Had broken Luger in. Luger's chopping Wahoo. Miami Beach Convention Center. On the chest. Wahoo says reverse it. Throw him in to reverse it. Luger is chopping him. He reverses, gets on the other side, so he's chopping him with the left hand.
That's great.
I thought Wahoo was going to kill him, man. I swear to God, I thought Wahoo knocked the dog out of him, man. You know, and just started blistering him up, you know. And I don't know if Luger's total, his potential has even ever been reached. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't think so.
His new character is great.
Yeah, and who created it? I mean, I did the video, produced it,
right.
Directed it, had some ability to take an idea that Kevin Nash had given me at the time, and that was a nice video. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I like his character. I think potentially wise, he still could be the man, you know. But who knows if he wants to be the man? So yeah, I like him.
I know there was an incident down in Florida we have on video with Bruiser Brody and Luger in the cage. Mm-hmm. Do you know about that? Like what happened in that match?
I'm like you. I just heard stories of it. You know what I mean? And yeah, and that's what guys don't understand, or they do understand. But in the old days or the days past, there were stubborn people that if you're going to get a job out of somebody and they didn't want to do it, you had to fight for your life in there. And so maybe that happened. Right. No, I don't know. I wasn't there.
All right, let's go back. Well, there's a lot to ask you about Japan, but we'll get back on that. In '88, you left and you went to the World Wrestling Federation. What were the circumstances behind that? Was there tension between you and Ric Flair? Or?
No. TBS had Turner had bought Crockett out. Anytime a corporate company comes in, they bring corporate mentality, not knowing anything about the industry at all, except they did numbers. We had moved to Dallas at the time, and in Dallas we had set up office. Jim Crockett came to me one day and he said, they don't want you to book anymore. The corporate, Jim Hurd and these guys that they hired. And, but they want to talk to you about talent, working. Well, I thought it was fucking, I thought I was the king of Sheba at that fucking time. I can't, damn. And Jim Hurd, my attorney, met with him. Now we're in attorneys, which I never had at this time and all this stuff. And said we want him to be a heel. And we give him this much money in percentage of this town or whatever. So it's good. But I said, the American dream is, I'm not going to do that. I actually said that. And we turned it down. So I said, that's cool. Now what am I going to do? So Florida Championship Wrestling was dear to my heart. Was in barely afloat with the Nasty Boys and Michael and Steve Kern and Mike Grimm, one of my closest friends out of the 5 that I have probably. And I went down there and spent 140, 50 grand, lost it. The company had owed money, like unbelievable amount of money. And I really wasn't into it yet like I could be now to run in the rural America territory or the old territories. And sit there and waited and Vince called, And when he called, I had the idea of when I was there with Superstar and when I was there, I actually had the idea of overthrowing Pat Patterson, not Hulk Hogan. I wanted the job as his right hand, not knowing how close him and Pat were. I love Pat Patterson, but I wanted that job. I wasn't, and people didn't understand this either. I wasn't so much into me working in the ring because I loved creating behind the scenes as I did the last years at WCW. And I wanted that job. And I told him that day, and Vince had people that were very loyal to him. And if he pissed on one, then it pissed him off, and that's the way he should be. But I made no bones about it, straightforward, that I wanted the job as assistant booker to him or whatever it was, whatever the title was. Right. I wanted that. Okay. So I think I was there, a year and a half or something, maybe at the most. I think that he tested me to see if I could get this gimmick over with Juanita, and I did. And
did you feel it was a knock on you putting your polka dots?
No, because I wore in Florida. I used to wear all kind of shit. People did. I mean, I wore polka dot headbands and hats and ruby begonia hats. Shit, that was nothing. Okay. But I said okay, because he asked me. I didn't have to do it. He was like that. He asked me, "You want to do this? You don't want to do it? Fine." You know what I mean? Right. And it wasn't like if you don't do it, you know what I mean? Right. And I said, okay, I get this. I want to have some fun here. I get this over. Right. And I got it over. So it got over. And so they said, oh, fuck, it's got over. And Juanita was not my choice. My choice was a Afro-American hooker off the street, kind of like Sherry, but kick your ass, right. My man type deal. Vince had softer, a common man, common girl mentality. And it worked, right. And so I made in a year and a half, I made a pot full of money, almost as much money as working my ass off 28 hours a day, 7 days a week for Crockett when I was creating it. So it was kind of easy, you know what I mean? And he knew I wanted, and he broke Dustin in, and he knew I wanted to, unfinished business at WCW. That the way I went out and I had an opportunity. I went to the Plaza Hotel then in New York City. Jim Hurd, Jim Barnett, Turner, a whole ball of wax. Come in, run wrestling. Went to Vince, let me go. Took my marketing. 2 or 3 years, he would send checks at that time till it ran out of how much I would have made, with the dolls. And one of my dolls is one of the top sellers right now in the country. It's unbelievable, And so I said, okay, I went back and I found a corporate structure that was unbelievably, it was hard. I don't think anybody could have got it out. I got it back up to the table to where when Bischoff took it, with Hogan, and he got all the talented people, and he had a vision that he took what I had tried to build back to that point, because I had some great kids, great guys, Cactus Jack and them guys. We had a center stage. We had some of the greatest TV tapings, Paulie, in the history of our business, man. We couldn't get over that hump. You know what I mean? But we were working on it. We did some great shit. And, but the first, and Turner, TBS to this day has been great to me. And Turner has been tremendous since 74. I've been with it since 74. So I don't have nothing bad to say about Turner.
Right.
TBS. WCW. They had guys run their industry at the first that were not into the business, you know.
Yeah, Kip Fry and all that.
Yeah, and so that's what hurt me, to where I had 9 bosses. You're trying to run with Crockett. I had Crockett, I had Eddie Graham, I had Vince, or they just had me. But now you got 9 or 10 bosses, 10, with all different philosophies. It took a hell of a guy, a hell of a creative person to fight and battle all that all the time. I did. That's why I'm so much at peace right now with myself in this industry. After finally realizing that's not the end. Before I'm too old, I want to do some other things and have some fun, and for real. And that wasn't the end to it. Where I fought so hard, I didn't want to give it up. It was my baby, and they were killing it, and I didn't want to give it up. And then Eric took it, and it breathed unbelievable life. And Dustin came back, and I said, felt good.
Right.
So I just said, it was a therapy. I said, that's it. So we don't agree. Release. You release me. Whatever you want to call it. Don't make a shit. I think Meltzer put it right. He wasn't fired.
Right.
He said he didn't want to do the thing with Dustin because it was a serious deal. It was emotional for me. And that's true. I don't know where he got it from. But he actually, for once, what I hear, told the truth about what happened. And we went our own ways, and my blessing to them. And they were good to me. So, but I feel really at peace with the business right now, and looking for a new era, a new step of it.
Do you want to talk about Dustin and your relationship with Dustin on here?
Never was around him as a child. Cody, like I have been with Cody. I missed all them times. I didn't want to miss it with Cody. I was on the road 380 days, 429 days a year, whatever the shit was, making my living, busting my ass, divorced, 2 beautiful children, Kristen and Dustin, that I loved so dearly and thought financially was enough, seeing them every once in a while. Now I know that was wrong. I was wrong as a dad about a lot of stuff that I did. He was completely right about feeling the way he did about me. We've patched it up. I love him more than anything. I feel he loves me. My daughter loves me. They went through hard times. I did what I thought was right. I can't go back and change it. But after 4 years, I got him back. And Cody adores him, a 14-year-old, until my 17-year-old. And he's going through some hard times right now that I went through. The same thing has happened.
Right.
And it's ironic. But when my dad died and he was born that day on the reels, when I say it's going to shoot for real, it was special. There's something special about that. So I think that now he has an opportunity to maybe, he took the first, weirdest, most unbelievable, I'm going to take a step into the next future gimmick and made it work.
What are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was tremendous. My God, man, how could, if you were going to go that way with your business, I mean, they didn't even scrape the surface with it though. I think he would have been, world champion. He could have been on every talk show. That was out there. That was as far out as you're going to get. And he made it work. Talent wise, he made it work. And, God, I thought it was, like it or not, it was tremendous. But, then it just kind of faded off. You know what I mean? Follow-up's important.
Right. Getting back to the 80s, so to speak, what do you think you could have done differently to go head-to-head with Vince and maybe come out on top?
I think here's the 3 things that we didn't do that we would have come out on top, without a doubt. Is being a Southern company, Crockett, being in the South, we had to use our head. We had a guy that's the tax guy, our accountant, kind of running the business side. One guy, been there with the old mom and pop organization when they were mid-Atlantic.
Right.
Never knowing the expansion was going by him, and he was reading the numbers and couldn't believe it. He didn't put up a red flag and say, you need to get rid of one of them planes. You know what I mean? He didn't do none of that. And I blame him for all that. But we needed to hire a marketing PR company out of New York City or LA, and Magnum and Flair should have been on every Johnny Carson show, every movie, everything like they're doing now.
Right.
They should have been on all of that. And if Vince, that's the word, the two logos, WWF, right? NWA. Wrestling fan knew NWA. The world knew WWF. Sports Illustrated. I don't care if I have to buy it to get on there. I'm getting on the cover. I'm doing this. So first was recognition, which they ran off and left us. We could not get recognized out of the NWA syndrome as we're going to wrestle for an hour and you're going to entertain us for an hour. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Vince entertained me for an hour. He entertained us. He entertained the world. Still doing it. We were wrestling. We were wrestling. I was wrestling. We were wrestling for an hour. And we were great. We were good. The world was not buying that. They were buying the wrestling and entertainment more. So marketing and exposure of name recognition. Every announcer at every football game would say, boy, that fight between them two football players, John Madden said, that looks like something from WWF. Every time they opened their mouth, it wasn't TBS or WCW or NWA. That, and still today they do that.
All right.
You know? So that's recognition. That's the thing. I think he didn't have a contractual agreement. I think the thing that hurt us worse than anything else was when we went to the contracts. So we started paying guys that were working their ass off to make this is low, but I'm just going to use an example. Me and you and Winter Robbins, okay? We make $100 a piece. We're on top. We're back there next Friday. We work our angle, okay? We come back and we make 200. The house is up. That's the way it should be, period. That's the way Vince kept it for a long time. Right. That's the way it was, not us. Because we didn't want to go to Vince. We're going to give a bunch of guys that can't hold their jockstrap, our lacer shoes up, a bunch of money. So what do you do right away? Your work rate goes down. Your injuries become more and more because you can be off. And if I was injured and I didn't make a show, I didn't get paid. And somebody else took my spot on top. Right. If they could. And that's the way it should be. Yeah, I want to change. Bring your attorneys right now and everything. That's got to be a bottom line. You work for this money. It's so that's two. That I think really hurt us. Okay. I think third thing that hurt and competing wise was of my three is TBS. Not them hurting us. Right. They were great. I think the persona that he had, I don't even know if that's a word, might be a Rhodism, of it being if it isn't, we'll put it in our book. It is that TBS was a Southern company. All Vince had to do was say wrestling. Right. He wrestles. And he does it all the time on the interview. Every time he mentions Turner. So Junior would say that. So right away, the world would say LA, the hip people, you know what I mean? Belushi, these guys, Jesus, the late John Belushi. Yeah, they were wrestling down there in the South, So it became the state South. The bigness of it goes back to number one, recognition of the product. Recognizing the product, associating the product with a certain amount of people. Stand Back Headache Powders, I was his first spokesman, but Stand Back didn't go to LA. It was a Southern company. I made money with that though, and I took it and it worked, but it didn't go over. Now then, Bayer, Excedrin, Tylenol, me on a commercial, nationwide recognition. It's what this guy had. He's with the WCW, the NWA,
Right.
you know. But I don't think they will ever, if we don't work for him, will ever overcome the WWF. Because there's a lot of circuses, but Barnum and Bailey is the big one. There's a lot of dancers and as far as ballerinas, but Baryshnikov is the one. When you say anywhere in the world, how did I overcome that? Because I went all over the world. I was in New York and LA, not just on TBS. TBS put me there. So when you say, no matter what they say, and my biggest gripe with doing documentaries is they leave out the 70s. It pisses me off. They leave out the LeDukes. They leave out the races. They leave out the 70s because they're only dealing right now what they think is numbers.
Right.
We'll talk with Eric and we'll talk with Vince. We use these guys on this. We'll talk a little bit about the old and we'll talk about Luthez being a great hooker.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all this shit. Well, they leave out the era that set the table that made all this thing happen. You know, the 70s into the early 80s. They leave it out. Not one has come to the house to interview me with you guys. Not one has said down, man, this is a real story here. This is a guy that was as powerful as anybody at the time and ran this country and this business. And everything that most of the 80% of the shit we see, name-wise, recognition-wise with WCW, from matches to inventions, he did that. He invented the forget the 5-minute get over match. He invented the video magic of getting a guy over before he got there. So that pisses me off because they don't recognize that. And I blame WCW or WWF or whoever that's saying, hey man, the guy you need to talk to is Dusty Rhodes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because he can call you and get all the tapes he wants. If we can put together something for him, you know what I mean? So it kind of pisses me off to where that lack of respect, you know, and lack of respect for me is the worst thing that really turns me off about the industry. So them things, without the recognition, we could not compete with him. I got off on a tangent on something else because I really hate them things. I mean, I see them there, you know, and it's not egotistically. Yeah, I want to see myself on there. There's not one tape of me wrestling on there, on the ones, you know what I mean? And we've seen 20,000 Bret Hart videos in the last 2 years. You know, not lately. I'm not talking about this year, but before you would see, you know, so he's somebody smart enough to selling his stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway,
let's see what else there is. Well, coin a phrase, everybody. I want to know what your opinion is. Don't hit me for this. The Dusty finish. Everybody says, "Oh, no, the Dusty finish. Dusty killed the town. The Dusty finish." Blah blah blah. What's your opinion on that term?
It was like I like it because you got to have a town to kill.
Right.
The Dusty finish got over in this town. Okay. I don't think you'd ever kill a town. You know what I mean? Or you might have really endangered a town. But my brother-in-law, okay, Typhoon, Fred Otman,
right,
the greatest live piece ever seen on TV is when he fell through the wall. I didn't fall through the wall. I didn't produce it to have him fall through the wall, but he did. But I killed myself by hiring my brother-in-law to fall through a wall. I mean, that's as simple as it sounds. And it's so funny. I mean, it's the greatest live piece except for this guy with a guitar hitting Moolah on TV. I've never seen a shot like Moolah took from this guitar. It was the greatest event in my life. I've never seen a shot like that.
Right.
I mean, and you wonder, I mean, why, you know, here I am talking about it as a mark.
Right.
I couldn't fucking believe it. And as they showed it back and they ran it, man, I'm saying this is the fucking shot of, I thought Cactus's jump off the top was the most awesome thing in our business.
Right.
And his second one into the text, but the first one, okay, that's one. But this here, This is close.
Right.
I mean, the way she looked, the bitch, when she hit her, and I love Moolah, man. I mean, her face all collapsed, in the slow motion.
Right.
All the wrinkles just went like they rolled down, man. And it happened so quick. Me and Cody were sitting there. I mean, I popped because I'm a mark for the business. If I ever stop being a mark, I won't be worth the shit because I got a lot of time left in it. In front of the camera, behind the camera, whatever. I love it. And when that happened, I said, I've been waiting 30 years for this shot to see this. I mean, and I mean, he hit Tanay the other night. Don't make a shit hit. I mean, he hit Moolah in the middle of the ring. And it was just, and she went like, she sold it like she's going to electric chair, man. I mean, so it was, that was a highlight for me, man. So you can't kill a town. Right. You know what I mean? They don't know. They hear Rude and Sting's supposed to be Rude. Savannah. Jim Herd comes in. We've talked to the front office, 12th floor. You can't do that. So all they see at home is the other finish. Right. You know what I mean? But corporate wise, for all the years I was here, I couldn't do these things. So they were done. So you can't do that. You can't put Paulie over. With Crockett or with Florida, I didn't come on town in Florida. So with Florida, I could do my finishes, okay? Right. And Eddie would help. He was the man. But somewhere else, Vince don't want her to do that. Vince don't want him to do that. So you got a good idea. Now you can do somebody else's idea, but the booker gets the blame. At least I got a Dusty finish. A lot of people don't even have a Dusty finish. You know what I mean? Right. They don't have nothing named after him. You know what I mean? Dusty finish. I'm proud of it. They never thought of it. They wouldn't know a finish if they tripped over it.
What are your opinions on today's wrestling as far as the fast-paced angles, storylines changing at a rapid pace?
Today is you have to move with the times, and the times are dictating tits and ass. Fast pace. Vince, more storylines than ever before. More of a movie than a wrestling event on Raw. 3 hours for Nitro is too long. It's too long to sit there. They even have a halftime at the Super Bowl. No matter what they do, what the new guys do, whoever's there. Right. It's very hard. It's difficult. But who gets the blame for it? We go back to the Dusty finish. They will. You know what I mean? But it can't. Sometimes you're in a situation that cannot work. ECW. 5 guys the other night. Slow down. I said, kids, just slow down. I don't mean slow down and stop. They go, wow, I can't believe Moolah. What if he would have reached down? I would have got on a plane and went and kicked the shit out of him. If he would have reached down and picked her up and slammed her. He didn't have, you know what I mean? Right. She went down. That was it. Right. The shot, poof, that was it. Right. You know what I mean? These kids the other night threw 2 tables to the floor. Right away, the babyface is picking them up, dragging them back in, doing the second one. So at home, you're going, ooh, 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 ooh. So what, it's like Sabu will say. It's, if you're hurting, goddamn, you're hurting. I don't want the babyface around me if I'm hurt. Right. So you can slow down and still go fast. And if that was the part to learn of now that I see that's a little bit different, is to slow down. You have to have the baby face that we talked about. You have to have the baby face that contradicts the bad. So the kids at home are seeing all this stuff. You have to have the one guy, whether the net people hate him or not. I call them the net people or the marks or the smart marks, whatever we call them. Say, well, that's honky, that's corny. You got to have that one guy that says he's wrong and I'm right, America, or whatever it is. You have to. I don't give a shit what it is. Right. In the movies or whatever. So we need to do that. But this is the most exciting time that I've seen in our industry right now. So it's cool.
Back in its heyday, going back a little bit to the Von Erichs, you worked for Fritz when you first started out, but you never went down there.
He started me.
Right.
Yeah, Fritz actually started me. Danny Pletchers gave my name. Dusty Rhodes. I was always Dusty. The street I grew up in Austin. My dad was a big baseball fan, and he loved the New York Giants pinch hitter Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes that I lived on. It just came out. Danny Fletcher said, "Hey man, why don't you call yourself Dusty Rhodes?" He was like assistant booker and shit for Fritz, you know, one of the old guys there, Bulldog Danny Fletcher's. And I just love, you know, the name, and I loved it. 74, the American Dream was a creation of mine that came out of my head, and it meant something because I made it real. You know, I didn't do an interview, or I gave them a message with it, and I still do today with the kids and the people that it is. It's corny, I know, for this interview, but American Dream, there is one. No matter what, yeah, there is. We're all living it. So.
You never really worked Memphis for Jarrett at all, did you?
No, I went in there off of TBS to work with. When you were the champion, you went in to have to wrestle their guy, right? And usually you had two choices. You go now and get disqualified, or I win. I mean, it's simple.
Right.
So Jarrett had, he would have these unbelievable people with unreal names that couldn't go 10 minutes, much less an hour. So it was hard.
Right.
But I liked Jarrett, okay? Lawler's from the Flim Flam school of Ric Flair. They're the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Lawler has made his niche on his own, and hats off to him. Tremendous. You know, but you gotta watch him. You know what I mean? You gotta watch him Ross and them guys, man. They're gonna turn your back. Whoa, I got how many holes I got in my back. So, right. But you persevere, I believe is the word, and you get through it. So.
Do you want to talk about Jim Ross at all, or no?
Who?
Jim Ross.
Jim Ross is cool, man. I mean, you know, Jim. God, he's talented. You know, he lived his dream because he always wanted to book or be involved in the booking and creative aspect.
Right.
That's what I said. Enemy-wise, to save the war, he was trying to get my job or knocking me every day, every single fucking day. Never let my friendship go. I liked him. You know what I mean?
Right.
He knows when to kiss ass. He knows when not to. But he is talented. And if you were going to start a company, he would be a guy, but you would have to know where he was.
Right.
And he would have to know, just don't use these dusty finishes, you know what I mean? Or whatever. But you know what I'm saying? There's a level of respect I have for him in the industry. Outside of it, away from where he doesn't have to compete against me, we were friends to the point of drinking beer, talking football, and I really enjoyed being around him, you know. But we all have our bad side, you know what I mean? And some people take care of themselves more than others. Maybe I should have. Maybe that's my downfall of the industry, was maybe I took care of all the other people when it looked like I was taking care of myself. And I should have said, I want to be what Hogan is. I want to be on all the shows. I want to do all these things. I could have really went crazy with it. And they would have really been talking about me today, but at least they're talking.
Where do you see the business going into the next millennium? Think it'll slow down? You think WCW will catch up? Obviously, I think they'll eventually catch up in the ratings, because right now I think WWF's getting stale a little bit.
Well, talent-wise, let's go with that. It's your change when your talent changes. Where you say WCW with the vision Eric had and I had and we had, was to say, once we got Hogan, was the man.
You were involved with the whole NWA.
Yeah. So we get involved with, but they were more, I was in the background by then, and I wanted to be. But as it came into full play with getting the recognition guys, WWF, what we did was New York came to WCW. Is what it was. It did.
Right.
And so we had to run. And it was great, and it was good. You know what I mean? I don't think they will. What you just said. If I was doing it, I don't think I would. I don't think we will get on the par number-wise with him. Because if he has to, he'll go to an hour completely no wrestling at all. Writer sitcom. I'm telling you. He'll change to the fact to whatever needs to be done for him to create and to make money. Vince will, because he's been down on his ass. Turner hasn't. He's been down on his ass big time from nothing and fought his way back to where he's at.
Right.
So his legacy is done in stone. But I think 2 hours for us, I still say us, for WCW, is important to compete with them for the number then. 3 hours is too long. It's for any creative person, no matter how good or bad or indifferent. So we're going to need that. But I think that the business will change even more than we know. I think there's whether it's ECW or whether it's Turnbuckle Sports, which is my company, Slash, don't forget that. George Foreman always did that. Always got a plug in for that hamburger thing that he sold all the time. You know what I mean? The thing that made the burgers.
George Foreman grill.
Yeah, the grill. So I think that it's going to change even more. But I think there's somebody's got the opportunity now. Paulie at ECW with TNN. It's a network. I was on it. I did the Motor Madness stuff. I did stuff there. But I think with UPN, the UPN network is right. There's one more person going to have a say in this. One more group. One more wrestling company that's going to take it on out, or take it even higher.
Do you want to talk about your new venture?
We started, the Turnbuckle Entertainment has been a company that has booked Dusty Rhodes, and my oldest daughter is Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and we have some people underneath that thing. Turnbuckle Sports is a entertainment wrestling academy that's going to open up in the year 2000. Because I love working with kids. No matter what anybody says, they know the kids that are around me. They know that. Wrestling school, Florida, Alabama, small territory. Run some shows, run some towns. Give back to the community. Each one of that we do will have so much money going to my Make-A-Wish, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, or the Boys Ranch, or whatever. So I think it's kind of a fun time for me to be in this thing that I've never done. And Dusty Rhodes doing it means something. I still want to do movies. I've written 2 screenplays. I want to get them done as a movie. I want to direct. I don't want to star in the movie. I want to do some next 6 or 7 years, do some real cool stuff before I go back to the ranch with me and Michelle and the kids go to college and whatever. The fantasy, the Dusty Rhodes fantasy camp is going to be something brand new it's never been done, like the baseball fantasy camp. Right. The Michael Jordan fantasy camp. We're planning the year 2000, early in the year, on a big nationwide commercial advertisement for the first fantasy camp. It's very simple. You are 2 guys that work construction, right? You're always talking about wrestling. Your wife wants to give you a present for Christmas. I want to give you a 5-day fantasy camp at a casino. The old timers are going to be there. I'm going to teach you how to have a match. I'm going to give you a pair of trunks, give you some boots, give you a t-shirt and a bag. You're going to rub shoulders. You're going to have a golf tournament. You're going to train in the morning from 10 to 12, from 1 to 3. I'm going to teach you how to have a 7-minute match. Friday night in the casino arena, you'll have your match. I'll tape it. I'll give you a tape. We'll bring the next group in. It's going to revolutionize. It's not smarting them up to say, or smarting them up. Shit, I'm using that on this thing here. It's not saying we're going to teach you to be a wrestler for WCW or WWF or ECW, which is the coming company, I believe, seriously on television. Not because I went to see Paulie the other night, but I just feel it is. But is that there's a lot of creative things I want to do that Turnbuckle Sports and Turnbuckle Entertainment Inc. Slash, whatever. Is that a slash? What do you call that slash? Slash. So them things are important for me to do. You know what I mean? And who knows where we'll go with and what we'll do. But right off the bat, I want to have some fun and I want to make some money. And I see a company that is struggled at times, not struggled, but competed against these 2 guys, and that's ECW, and that's Paulie. And after meeting the guys the other night in the dressing room, it was the best I had felt in many years. Whether it was sincere or not, I think most of them were. It was a tremendous amount of respect. I felt the best I had felt in years about this business. being with these kids. I just wanted to be around them. I didn't want to work with them. I wanted to teach them. I wanted to talk to them about them. I wanted to give them some of them dusty finishes and see what they thought about them without doing them. I didn't want to book. I didn't want to do nothing. I seen lights where they should have been. I seen a vision of putting a camera over here and doing a different shot. I seen something that could really be balls out, because Paulie's been with me and I've been with him in his heart for a long time. And respect he has to fight these big companies and to get to this point. He has an opportunity, I think, to take it to another level. And I wouldn't tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind being part of it. And it's occasionally in the ring, you know what I mean? Right. But as I told him the other night, and I told a couple of kids and the Tommy Dreamer kid, I don't want to come here and give the bionic elbow and be Dusty Rhodes in the 70s and 80s. People that would fart on the people. That were the Godfather, yeah, maybe, but not. I do not want to take any thunder from any of these kids. Y'all worked your ass off. They worked their ass off to get to this point. So I think the business is going to another level. I think there'll be another company involved, whether it be mine, whether it be ECW, whether it be JWB or whatever the hell it is. There's going to be something else really happening in the year 2000 that takes it to a little different level.
Right.
And I think that's important. So I think it's only good. I think it's going to be, because now we understand, you, me, interviews like this, we understand now that it is sports entertainment. These are great athletes doing unbelievable things, telling you a story. And for 2 hours of the story that I'm telling you for 2 hours, you're going to believe it with all your heart. You'll go out and fight and say, that is real. That really happened. I'm telling you, you should have seen it. An hour later, your friend's going to talk to you and say, no, that's just entertainment and everything. But for that 2 hours, I want to make you feel that this is the most intense situation you've ever been in. That's the key to success in this industry. If you lose that completely, you won't be successful.
Do you want to talk about Japan? Because we didn't even get into Japan. That was great close, but I don't want to close it yet.
Well, we can do another one. You know,
Japan.
$90,000 is a good deal for this. Japan.
Like, what do you
about
remember?
37, 38 times. I don't know.
Right.
Murdoch and me loved, and we hadn't even talking, and we might do another one sometime. But I hadn't even talked about. Yeah, me and Backlund were huge over there. I was a big star in Japan because I was the NWA heavyweight champion, and I didn't go with Baba, who I loved Baba, but I went with Inoki, who became personal friends of mine.
Right.
So I was with the other group. So they got their first big star was the NWA champion, who was only used by Baba.
Right.
So the war they were having, I was in the middle of it. Okay. And, Inoki, we had a great relationship. Early days, me and Murdoch went for Baba. Go over, drink beer, kick ass, have fun, it was cool. But a lot of guys made a hell of a living over there. Stan Hansen, guys like that, that's made their whole career. To where you ask guys now, you ask these kids at Cody's school, who's Stan Hansen is, they don't know. Cody knows.
Right.
But they don't know. You ask a kid in Japan who he is, it's like Elvis.
Right.
So it's, but they do know, if you're not even a fan in this country, they do know, let's say not a wrestling fan, and you go into a party and you say Hulk Hogan, they know. Well, they know he's a wrestler now, but they know. Okay? Andre the Giant, they know. They know.
Right.
Babe Ruth, they know. Ali, they know. Dusty Rhodes, they know. And that's a fulfillment. That's the American dream. They do. And that's not a bullshit. Oh, it's Carney ending there. They do. They know them names. The table was set by these people that we're eating off of. So it's going to be a cool year.
Cool.
All right.
Definitely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
TitleMatchNetwork.com